Breaking news, ESPN is reporting Redskins coach Jay Gruden has been fired. They're citing a source right now, so not a whole lot of details about that. We're working to confirm this ourselves, but that's what we're hearing from ESPN.
We're following breaking news on CBS Sports HQ. The Washington Redskins have fired head coach Jay Gruden. Team off to an 0-5 start after its loss at home to the Patriots, and multiple reports say the team will make O-line coach and assistant head coach Bill Callahan their interim guy moving forward. Callahan, of course, has NFL experience, a former Raiders head coach, and then also in the college ranks at Nebraska.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you acknowledging that I called it last week, because I ain't hear
Monday was going to happen.
I said last Monday. I ain't hear no other show on ESPN acknowledging that. It just amazes me. But if I was wrong, I'd have heard from everybody. But that's neither here nor there. Here's the reality. Jay Gruden should have been gone. This is too little, too late on the part of Daniel Snyder. Jay Gruden's record as a head coach is 35, 41, 49, and 1. That's 14 games under 500. He has not been impressive, and more importantly than that, again, I don't know the man personally. I'm only echoing the sentiments that have been said about him, which is that they questioned his work ethic. They said that he hid behind Sean McVay. Daniel Snyder, Max Kellerman, is ultimately the individual that takes the greatest hit, because you had a guy in Sean McVay who was there as your offensive coordinator before he got the Rams job. You had a Kyle Shanahan who was once in your organization. You let him go. So you have individuals that are highly respected and held in high esteem in the National Football League, that are head coaches for other franchises, that worked under Jay Gruden. And Daniel Snyder let them walk out the door in favor of keeping Jay Gruden, whose work ethic he questioned. There were questions about his relationship with executive Bruce Allen, although they both denied that there was any friction coming into this season. In the end, here's the reality, and this is the harsh reality. The only reason why Jay Gruden got the head coaching job to begin with, and the only reason why he lasted this long, according to people that I speak to in the National Football League, is because of his last name. John Gruden wasn't with the Oakland Raiders. He was in the Monday night booth telling everybody at the time he didn't want to be a head coach anymore. So they thought that they'd get, just a reincarnation per se, same last name, pedigree, et cetera, et cetera. It did not work out that way. Some people ain't meant to be a head coach. Some people are destined to be coordinators. And Jay Gruden's record as head coach of the Washington Redskins proved just that.
Nobody's told me anything, and I don't have a concern. I'll just wait and see. My key works on Monday. Keep working. Go attack the Miami Dolphins, and plan on getting our first win next week.
That's Jay Gruden after yesterday's 33-7 loss to New England Patriots, and I feel that way all the time as long as the key's working.
I don't know why your wife keeps giving you one. I don't know what she's thinking.
I work at the house, so I never leave, so it's kind of hard to get rid of me.
Gosh.
I'm talking about coming in here. I've got my little thing that I use every day, and there was one day where it didn't work, and it's like, well, this is how it goes down.
It's about time.
This is how it goes down, and it's how it went down. And I just can't help but wonder, because the news broke so early this morning, if they didn't reach out to Jay to make sure he doesn't even bother to try to use the key this morning, because it is over.
Right.
But look, we felt this one coming. I don't want to make light of the fact that the guy's lost his job. Now, ordinarily, this is where I'd say he's going to be paid for the balance of his contract, but we know how things go in Washington. If they can find any plausible way to not pay you, they'll try to not pay you like they did.
Like a crazy video that came out over the weekend?
Coincidentally came out on Friday on the same day he said Colt McCoy's the starting quarterback, not Dwayne Haskins.
A little weird.
What a coincidence that was.
Yeah, I can't lie.
And let me tell you, the organization is upset and resents the insinuation that they're in any way responsible for it. They're not upset, apparently, that someone was trying to smear their head coach. There was no anger about that. It was just that there was an insinuation that they were in some way behind it. But the circumstantial evidence, and I'm not saying that they did put that out there, the circumstantial evidence invites speculation, reporting, examination.
Definitely fishy.
Because it all came out on that day where Gruden, defying the organization's love of Dwayne Haskins, goes with Colt McCoy, who's just been hanging around for the last 7 years.
Yep.
And then after the game, they had to know that after the game on Sunday, he was going to be out. For him to be out so quickly after yesterday's loss to the Patriots, they had to know going into the game that this is it for Jay Gruden.
I would think so. I would think they're realistic enough to realize that they probably were not going to beat the New England Patriots, bearing a miracle or something like that. And, again, You said it. I feel bad for Jay Gruden. I think he's done a good job there in Washington. It's, I'm not going to sit here and say he should have been coach of the year a few times or anything like that. But I think some of the circumstances and players that were put around him on that roster were not his doing, and he did the best with it. And, of course, this year has just been a disaster from the get-go, whether it's been Trent Williams, some of the rumors we've heard over the last few weeks with Dwayne Haskins and all of that. And they just have not played well and, of course, got their butts whooped yesterday.
Bill Callahan, reportedly the interim head coach. He's the guy who took over for John Gruden when John left for the Buccaneers in 2002. And Bill Callahan took the Oakland Raiders to the Super Bowl.
Yes, he did.
In that first year.
Right.
And, of course, guys like Tim Brown had some conspiracy theories about Bill Callahan throwing the game by not changing any of the audibles. I don't think he did it on purpose. I just think it was dumb to not change any of the audibles.
Right.
And John Gruden knew exactly what the Raiders were going to do. But Callahan has shown he can coach, and I don't think this means he's going to be the guy in 2020. We know how it works for Dan Snyder. There's somebody out there already that he's in love with that he's going to try to bring in for 2020, and we'll start to get some hints, some reports as the season continues to unfold.
The issue with Washington is the owner, Dan Snyder. And you know what I love about this? Like with Jim Dolan with the Knicks. You keep hiring, firing people, whatever you want to do. The futility on the field is what it is since you bought the team. The more you get rid of guys and bring new guys in, the more we see there's one constant. His record of failure, Dan Snyder, is there for everyone to see. He's the worst owner in the NFL and one of the worst in sports. And by the way, he's almost dangerous because he really is a football fan. Like, he really does love the team, right? But because he doesn't know much compared to actual football people, if he gets attached to a guy, to an idea, he's going to overrule his football people. And that's been reported several times. Stephen A., so a fish rots from the head down. And was Jay Gruden a good coach? Obviously not. If you listen to people like Deshaun Jackson, Stephen A., when Deshaun Jackson left Philly, he was upset about it. But did you hear him saying things like they don't want to win in Philadelphia and all that kind of stuff? No. That locker room was no good. When he left Washington, and it wasn't even like he said it with malice. It was just like, bro, you walk in there and it's just, they don't think they're going to win. That was the team under Jay Gruden. And so, yes, you have to get rid of him. But my point is, you can get rid of Jay Gruden, get another guy, whatever. The problem starts at the very top, Dan Snyder. So as a Giants fan, I'm glad he owns the team. I want him to own that team forever. And by the way, that's with sensitivity to the idea that I don't mention their name. I call them the franchise from Washington because I find it highly offensive, that name. And, of course, he defends it and arrogantly doubles down and we're never going to change the name and all this kind of stuff. He's bad on a lot of fronts, the football product being the primary one.
Well, the bottom line is this. They've only won 2 playoff games since 1992. Since 1992, this franchise, they won the Super Bowl in 1991. They won a playoff game that next year and lost in the divisional playoff round in 1992. Since 1992, spanning nearly 30 years, the Washington Redskins have 2 playoff games on its resume and only 1 playoff victory they had a playoff victory in 2005. That was their last playoff victory. They have not won a playoff game since 2005.
We're not talking about Super Bowls here.
They haven't won a playoff game.
Win.
They haven't won a playoff game. And they've only been to the playoffs 3 times in the last 14
the
years.
last in the playoffs, 2015.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.
And with that, good morning, everybody. Tommy Tran in our CBS Sports HQ studios here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And if you're waking up this morning, you know now that the Washington Redskins no longer offering an olive branch to Jay Gruden. Here's a statement there from the team saying through the first 5 games of the 2019 season, the team has clearly not performed up to expectations. Moving forward, we are committed to doing all that we can collectively as an organization to turn things around and give our Redskins fans and alumni a team they can be proud of in 2019 and beyond. All right, for more on Jay Gruden no longer being the head coach in Washington, let's welcome in NFL insider Jason La Canfora. And JOC, as many people are waking up this morning, not necessarily a surprise, but now we have some definitive, clear, concise movement here. What are your thoughts? What more can you tell us here?
Well, I mean, look, the Redskins are a dysfunctional franchise. I'm not going out on a limb by saying that. They have been dysfunctional for most of Dan Snyder's ownership tenure. The football operations are in the hands of Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen doesn't have an evaluation background. Bruce Allen isn't what you'd necessarily call a football man. He's more of a businessman. Yet there is not a single decision of any magnitude that's made on the football side that isn't signed off by Bruce Allen, or in many cases just simply executed by Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder. And that is the nature of this organization's fatal problem. And it's the reason why under this regime, and by regime I mean Bruce Allen's tenure, where I think he's about 35 games under 500, doesn't really matter who the coach is or who the coordinators are. Doesn't matter how many talented young coaches you might have on the staff. There was a time when Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor were all in that building. They don't win football games on anything close to a consistent basis because they don't put together the types of rosters and they don't have the type of organizational cohesion that leads to success in this league. Jay Gruden knew coming into the season he probably wasn't going to make it through the season. I'm told Jay Gruden would have been okay had the Redskins just relieved him of his duties in the spring when they were having philosophical differences about how this team was being built. This is a coach who did not know that the owner and the team president were trading for Alex Smith. This is a guy who didn't know that they were then giving Alex Smith a massive contract extension when they didn't have to. That essentially secured the quarterback position for the head coach without the head coach having a voice in that decision. It's been bad there for a long time. I reported 2 weeks ago there were numerous people on that staff who basically saw their firing as inevitable given what was going on in the building and given how bad the relationship had become between Jay Gruden and Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder. I expect them to try to make a flashy splash move of some type. That's what Dan Snyder does. He goes from hiring a low-key guy to hiring, a Joe Gibbs type. It was Spurrier didn't work. Let me go to Joe Gibbs, a proven NFL head coach. When that ended, he was stuck with Jim Zorn when other people didn't want the job. Jim Zorn was not a person anybody else was interviewing for head coaching candidates. He comes off of that debacle. Let me go get Mike Shanahan, a guy who's done it before. He takes a chance on Jay Gruden as a first-time head coach. He lasts 6 years, which by Redskins standards is an eternity. But now he's left with a broken covenant with his fans, nobody in the stands, nobody clamoring even to go to games, to pay attention to his football team. I live basically in the region that the Redskins are marketing to, and they're a disaster. So I expect Dan and Bruce to make a business decision and try to get some sort of head coach they believe will get fans to buy back in, will have the type of pedigree that will help them sell seats, because the product on the field will not sell seats.
When we come back here on CBS Sports HQ, we continue to follow breaking news. The Redskins fire coach Jay Gruden. What's next? We'll talk about it here on the program. If you're just waking up with us here on CBS Sports HQ, we're following breaking news. Washington Redskins have fired head coach Jay Gruden. Team is off to an 0-5 start after its loss at home to the Patriots. Multiple reports saying the team will make O-line coach and assistant head man Bill Callahan the interim guy. He does have NFL experience with the Raiders, also in the college ranks with Nebraska. And for Jay Gruden, in his 5+ seasons in D.C., a 35-49-1 record with just one playoff appearance, as this year the Redskins' first 0-5 start since 2001. For more on this breaking news, let's welcome in senior writer Pete Prisco. And Pete, what do you make of the firing here? Not necessarily a surprise, but yet here we are.
Look, there's been friction inside that building for a while now. It goes back a long way, but it goes back to the draft specifically. The ownership, the general manager, they wanted Dwayne Haskins. Jay Gruden and the coaching staff did not. Well, they drafted Dwayne Haskins, and now he's been sitting. And so the owner's not happy with that. That's why the move was made. I mean, 0-5, it's easy to make that move when the coach is in agreement with you. So I think this is a precursor to we're going to start seeing more of Dwayne Haskins under center.
You think we're going to see more Dwayne Haskins under center? The winless Redskins will be at the winless Dolphins this week. What do you think the approach should be? Because there are some that say that you should make sure you're okay with Dwayne Haskins, make sure he gets a guy that you'll be okay with. But you are here saying this morning that they should play the rookie.
Well, I'm always a big believer in playing the rookie sooner rather than later. Now, clearly, Jay Gruden thought his job might be on the line, and it was, so he wanted to play the guy that gave him the best opportunity to win. Well, that's all cast aside now. Bill Callahan's not going to be the long-term coach, so now he does what the ownership wants, and what the ownership wants is to play Dwayne Haskins. And if you're going to play Dwayne Haskins, this is the week to do it. Miami isn't a good football team. Throw him in there, let him play, see what you have, let him grow, spend the rest of the season getting Dwayne Haskins ready for the future. This team is not going to win, get in the playoffs. They're not going to win the division, so find out what you have in Dwayne Haskins.
Pete, they get a head start in looking for a permanent head coach. What type of coach do you think that should be? One to pair with Dwayne Haskins, we presume.
Yeah, an offensive-minded coach would make a lot of sense, but also somebody's going to have to work with Dan Snyder, and that takes a special coach. And I know there's only one, it's only one of 32 jobs, and so it's special. I get it. But when you go into that situation, you got to be prepared for everything that comes with being a head coach of the Washington Redskins. But if it were me and I were Dan Snyder, I'd look for a young, bright offensive mind. And again, that's been the trend. Look around the league. All the young offensive minds are the guys getting hired. So I think that's going to follow suit here. He needs to get an offensive wizard to work with Dwayne Haskins.